Okay, cool. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back. Here we are. Okay, awesome. So, hey everyone, I'm here with Dee, a friend of mine. I can't remember what state she lives in, so she can tell us that in a bit. But I wanted to get her on here and chat with her. We're both Covenant coaches. That's how we met. We went through Covenant Coach Academy, 2 different cycles. And Dee is an amazing coach, and she's a mom of 5 kids. And anyway, one thing that I often get asked as a mom of a large family is, why a large family, or how did that come about? Because a lot of people are 2 and done or 3 and done, and so anyway, just want to let Dee share. You can first share like where you're from and a little bit about you, Dee, if there's anything else I missed, and then tell us why a large family.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me on here. And I am from Cleveland, Ohio, and I have 5 kiddos ranging from 20 on down to 7. And I've been married for 20 years. My husband retired out of the military, and then 7 years later, well, here we are. He bought a business, and that's what we're doing. So we have 5 kids, and I'd have to say that it took me a while to become a much better mom than what I am now. I didn't really have the tools or strategies, and I believe the lies of this culture that having a big family is expensive and it's a lot of work and all this. And I'd have to say about 5 years ago, I really embraced, God, and just really gave it all to him. And, my mindset has really changed. And, I just embrace everything. And
what brought you, Dee, tell us what brought you to that point of, like, you were going through a struggle, not, it wasn't great, you were believing lies, but then what brought you to the point where you started embracing the large family, that, life like you had?
Well, I started seeing ladies like, in our church, and, people like Hannah Keeley and yourself, who were happy and they were enjoying their kids, and, and I started talking to them, and I realized that I just didn't have the right tools or strategy or mindset. And, I think I was really into like image-based, parenting, like looking good for the outside, when really, that's not what it's all about,
Right. So. And what have you, like, with the change of mindset, what have you made it all about now? Like, what does it look like now more so?
Well, it's really about living out God's will and bringing God the most glory, and realizing that my children are gifts, and each of them are different, and they have different personalities. They handle things differently, and just giving them space and freedom, to be who they are and who God created them to be.
Right. Yeah. And it's amazing how, I know myself too, I lived several years with, anxiety and fear and what's going to happen to my kids, and am I going to do it right, and all the questions like that. But then realizing that, like, this is our life, like what we're doing right now. I remember when I first recognized that, I was in my house doing my own thing, with my kids. And if I'm anxious and having anxiety in that spot, why would I continue that way? When it's your daily life and you're anxious just over the laundry or the dishes, And so, yeah, go ahead, Dee.
No, and just the idea of putting a lot of drama around things like doing like folding the laundry. You'd look at this huge pile and be like, oh my gosh, it's going to take so long. In reality, you can knock it out in 5 minutes. You can clean a bathroom in 3 minutes, you know? And
Yeah.
if you look around at a bunch of clutter, you're like, okay, this kid can clean this up or can vacuum over here or do this and that. Like it's not all up to me to do it all. And then you're teaching them, you know?
Yeah. And I like that idea of that delegating kind of like, what you were just talking about. Like, how about who can do this job? Maybe not exactly like you do, but who can do it well enough, to get
Yeah,
it done. So is that one way you like it helped make it through those trying years?
absolutely. And when you get a hold of anxiety, you get over that and depression, you work through that, your kids see that. And then they start to learn. Like my daughter has in school has written on a couple of her papers. I guess they do, papers and health and on mental health stuff. And she wrote in one of them, my mom's always trying to better herself. And I was just like, oh, that's so great. And her teacher took the time to make a copy and send it. And she said, my mom always tries to have a good attitude, and I appreciate that. And it's half the time I'm thinking she's looking at me like I'm some old lady.
Right. That's huge when our kids see what just the positive changes that we're making. Sometimes we don't think they're that big, but
Yeah.
when our kids, see that and say something. I know I had one of my daughters, I think she was in second grade at the time, and she brought home a paper. I think it was for Mother's Day or something, but it was all these answers about her mom. And she was like, my mom likes to do Bible study. My mom loves God. My mom, like all,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my goodness, she's seeing, some things that I maybe am not realizing how it's impacting their lives,
Yeah.
but it's amazing what our daily state, and how the kids notice, and they do. And I like it that you mentioned like getting a hold of anxiety and depression. I know there was a time when I didn't want to get out of bed. Like I had about 5 kids at the time, and I was afraid, like I didn't know what to do with them. I was homeschooling, and I was like almost paralyzed with fear that I'd do it wrong, or but what the verse God gave me to help me get out of bed was, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And it that verse hit me like it didn't matter. The Lord didn't say, this is the good day he's made, or this is a day without any problems that we're supposed to rejoice in, but it was the day, and so I used that verse. I pasted a smile on my face and used that verse to get me up out of bed and doing the next thing with my kids. And do you have a story of overcoming depression, Dee, or anxiety? And
Yeah, it was probably about 10 or 11 years ago. And I was my husband was deployed a lot and we were living in Italy. And I remember just being really overwhelmed with 3 kids and just worrying about like, them being in school and in a different country and just feeling like, just it drained all your energy and just like getting out of bed was a huge task, and then I have these 3 kids I've got to take care of, get on the bus. My husband's not around. And I remember, that them giving me a lot of uh, anxiety meds, depression meds, and it just really wasn't helping. It was making it worse. And my brother looked at it and he's like, are they trying to kill you?
oh, no.
And just getting back into running and finding good people and finding a good Bible study and saying, look, this is what's going on. And they're like, you need to pray and, take authority over this. And so that really helped. Like that was a big turning point for me over anxiety and depression. I still battle it on and off, but not even near what it used to be.
Right. Wow. That's
And
amazing.
just realizing, like, your thoughts drive your emotions. So I used to joke, like, I was emotionally constipated. Like, I'd have this feeling, didn't know where the thoughts came from. So I'd always be keeping busy or trying to do something else, or not really focusing on like what's going on, like what's underneath the emotions as well, and then
Mhm.
changing them. So
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's so cool to see, look back and go, wow, look what God saved us from, or,
yeah,
restored areas in our life. And He's so good to do
absolutely.
that. I also so I'm glad you brought up running because I know that you're a covenant coach, a covenant life coach. And so can you share with us just what you do and how you help people that way?
Oh, absolutely. I've been running for a long time, but as a mom, you put it on the back burner. And picked it up again and, started running halves and full, marathons. And I realized, like, all kinds of people run. You kind of have this image like, oh, they're the really skinny people that just run or run those big races. And I realized, no, it's anybody. Sometimes people will walk part of it,
Yeah.
and just the sense of accomplishment, of finishing a race. And it really helped me overcome like anxiety and depression as well, and just manage my thoughts because I'm just an active person. And so I took the Covenant Coach Academy, that got certified. And I'm like, you know what, this would be great with running, because a lot of times we won't run because we're trying to, we're feeling heavy about a problem, we don't have energy. But then when you manage your thoughts, even when you're running, you're like, okay, I'm focused on negative. No wonder I'm not running so well. Then when you focus on the positive, you just have so much more energy. And yeah, so I've really, like 16 years ago, I ran a marathon, and then I ran one again. And I got sick this time around. I had really bad bronchitis, ended up in the ER. And, I just took it, I took the fear out of it, said, I'm going to finish this. It's going to be okay. And I finished within 5% of my time, and I just was positive. I focused on verses. So I've really incorporated that into running, and I have a running group, and, so that's the kind of things I do. So.
Oh, cool. And so, is there any way if somebody out there that sees this interview and our conversation, if they are interested in running, how could they find you?
Oh, they can send me a direct message on Facebook. I also have like the links, on my Instagram and on my Facebook. So,
Yeah. And
yeah,
so, after this, can you in the comments type like whatever they need
my
to
links.
find you, like your name or whatever, your
Yeah,
links or whatever?
definitely. And it'll
Yeah.
be my link. So you could definitely join my Facebook group, and then, message me that way too.
Okay, that sounds
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, and I like the idea of the race because, as I've become a coach, there were a couple of verses that God gave me that I just feel like is what I'm helping clients do. And one of them was to throw off the weights and the sin that so easily entangle so that
Yes.
they can run their race. And then
Awesome.
the other part of it is forgetting the past so that they can reach toward the high call of God. And so it is, I mean, our life is a race, and
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
our mindset is a lot how we do that race. Like you were talking about when you were more negative, your running wasn't as good or, whatever. But when you focus positive, then you got the results you were looking for. And
Yeah.
yeah, and
Well,
so yeah, it's the same with just our daily lives too. So,
absolutely.
well, I sure appreciate you being on, Dee, and appreciate our friendship. And I'm thankful that we're connected in our inner circle with Hannah Keeley. And, it's just been
Me
great.
too. It's been
So,
awesome.
yes, thank you. And
Thank you.
set this down that way.